Well. I have been off gallivanting for the last couple of months. I haven't dropped any podcast episodes in that time. I've been on a soul journey back to Costa Rica after having moved to Maui last year. And as any of my listeners know, I have been on a journey with a plant medicine, a sacred cactus medicine called Huachuma. And I had the honor and privilege of bringing that beautiful medicine to my soul family in Costa Rica. And one of those lovely, beautiful, familial friends is the beautiful and wonderful priestess Kashi, who I've got on the line right now to have a conversation about her experience with this medicine on the Magical Mystery Tour with my dear mentor Munay on the Caribbean coast of Costa Rica, Talamanca, outside Puerto Viejo. Kashi, you are magic. You were my second interview last year after I rebranded this podcast. And just as a reminder, that episode, for anyone who wants to go back and listening to it, is called Returning to Heaven Through Tantric Alchemy and Heart Technology. So that gives you a brief glimpse into the gorgeous Kashi. Welcome, Kashi.
Thank you. I'm so happy to be back. I actually remember we were like, we should do this again. Now we're
Yeah,
doing it again.
we're doing it
Yeah.
again, almost exactly a year later.
Ah, wow. And welcome back you after your gallivanting. And not so much gallivanting, more like holy soul work.
It's true.
Bit of both. Bit of both.
A bit of both. And it's 1 week exactly, at the moment of this recording, it's 1 week exactly after our ceremony, which was on Friday the 13th in January. 13 is such a gorgeous, sacred number. Perfect number for us to have a ceremony on. And we were just talking before I hit record about how my beautiful sister, mentor, Munay, had requested of us that we not speak of the ceremony for at least a week. And so now is that moment.
Yeah, it's true. And it was Friday the 13th. It was Venus Day on the 13th, which was very like divine feminine numbers and alignment. And we're both Taurus women, so we were like very Venusian, and it was really beautiful. But it aligned that way, and the weather was divine, and it felt um very held by all of creation in so many ways. Yeah. And actually one thing I don't know if I told you is like when it was a 12-hour ceremony, right? Like maybe a little longer. And the minute I got home, it started raining. Like the minute it was completely clear skies the whole time. We were able to have a fire. There was like no interruption, perfect weather. And then as soon as I got home, the rain like dropped, as it does in the Caribbean, like hard.
I remember that and I love that. It was like this cleansing, this beautiful and it was the last ceremony. It was the very final out of four ceremonies that we brought. And it was this gorgeous final sort of like washing of everything clean. It's almost for me, the Wachuma is like a bath of light of every cell of my body. It's a bath of light. And then to have that final baptism of water at the very end.
You're kind of thirsty for it because it is, there's so much light, and I don't, it's the cactus energy or something. I didn't drink a lot of water, then we were by the fire. I'd run out of water, and it's just like, yeah, you're running on the light. You're really running on the light. You're not eating, you're, not really drinking. And yeah, for me, it was such an interesting contrast also to ayahuasca, which is the medicine I've worked with more than Huachuma. I've experienced Huachuma twice before this ceremony, but never in a context like this with like, yeah, this kind of guidance and this kind of holding and this kind of tribe also that, that I know, like the community that I live with. And it was such a unique, precious moment for me. It was right before. So for me, I said to Sarah before we started, I'm like, like I haven't really actually had a lot of time to really integrate, like to really be with myself alone since the ceremony, because I went straight into facilitating a retreat. So I haven't really talked about it, and I've been very aware also what Munay guided us into, which was to not put a box around the experience straight away, to not try and describe it, to not try and define it, because actually the medicine is still with you, the medicine is still working. And I noticed that especially in the dream time. I definitely felt a shift in my sleep experiences. And that also relates to what do they call it? The waking dream?
Yeah, the waking dream.
Yeah. So I definitely felt that. I feel like I didn't sleep for like the 2 nights in between, with the ceremony was in between, you know? And so I definitely experienced that waking dream aspect, and I resonate with the bath of light. And yeah, I mean, where to start? It was just so exquisite for me. It was such a gift. It was such a unique opportunity. And I knew that because of you. And I really I felt that calling, especially because it was coming through you. And I think like the thing that also really stood out for me was the way in which you and Munay held the space, and the way in which she guided the ship. Because first of all, in my experience with plant medicine, there's much fewer female facilitators than male facilitators. And so that was one of the things that drew me to it, because I feel like that's pretty rare. And also because she came so highly recommended through you. And I was just in real awe and gratitude for the way that she held the space, and the way that she used especially sound, her presence, and also sound. She calls it rhythm keeping, but the way that she's toning, she's singing a kind of wordless song throughout like 12 hours, really. And that was just so important for me, because I have a lot of awareness around safety and around also, yeah, when a facilitator is not able to hold me in the depths that I want to go to. And I felt like with her, there was so much, yeah, she really had it in her hands, like she was really capable. And so I was able to really feel super free and super able to drop in deep and fly high and all the things, because it was like this space is really, really held. And that's not, sadly, always the case with plant medicine and with ceremonies.
Yeah, she really does facilitate a beautiful structure um, around this medicine, and yeah, it's like 12 to 15 hours, and so to create that safe held structure with sound, with rhythm, and with compassion and love is astounding. And this is a very, in some ways, it's a very vulnerable medicine in a different way than ayahuasca, because it is daytime. You know, we start in the daytime. We can see each other. We're communing together in a nonverbal, wordless space. And so when we're meeting each other there, we're meeting each other at our most sort of raw and truest essence. There's no
Yeah,
bypassing or faking anything on this medicine.
totally.
Light of the day.
Yeah, it's true. And also, I feel like what was really important was the spaciousness that we had, like the property that it was on. Like there was a very clear container. It wasn't too sprawling in terms of where people could go, but we had space. And I think for me, that was super important, to be able to like feel that I could open up energetically and really occupy the space that I wanted to or needed to, and not feel like I was like crisscrossing with someone else too close. But at the same time, I had an eye on the sisters like either side of me, positioned on different points of the land, so I felt still very aware of them, very connected to them, but like energetically I had all the space to be able to really open up. And that was also a gift, you know, because it's like then you're able to really commune with the land and with the nature more than necessarily the people in the circle. Like it's all weaving together, right? So you are very connected, and you're really, you know, you're communing at all levels, really. But it's like having that space to really open up to the land, to creation, to Pachamama, and really just do your thing with her, like really go into that intimacy with all of life. and feel very uninterrupted and also very held in that. That was a big part of the gift for me.
Oh, yeah, it's like we're witnessing one another, on a very energetic level. It's not like we're all in our own space with our own ceremony and our own work slash play, and yet we're also, bearing witness to one another as we go through this, step through this portal. Beautiful.
Yeah,
And
and
oh, go ahead.
your presence, it was just beautiful to see you in that space. I mean, one of the first things that happened that I remember was like hearing you sing. Munay was doing her thing and then you were singing, and it was like this ethereal singing that I didn't initially know where it was coming from or who it was. And then I realized it was you, and that was really beautiful. So it was really lovely. Like that was just a sort of gateway into witnessing you in that space and being, because we've never shared plant medicine together this way. We've never shared ceremony together at this depth and level and length. And it was amazing. And for me also to be able to witness, because I mean, I want to get you to talk about this really, but like I've witnessed you over the last sort of 6 months when you left the Caribbean and you've been in Maui and we've been in touch, and then you've come back, and it's like witnessing your journey with diving deeper into this medicine and facilitating this medicine with Munay. And so it was really awesome to see you like in action, and how the two of you hold the space together, like how you support her, and how your medicines also weave together, and the harmony between you, and yeah, that collaboration, because that's something that I'm also experiencing, supporting in ayahuasca ceremonies with a sister, with another female facilitator. So it was a really beautiful reflection for me, and I felt very like celebratory of you the whole time, which was really nice.
It's such an honor to serve this medicine, and by serve this medicine, I mean to be in service to this medicine. It feels like it really holds a consciousness and an intention and a will of its own to create the waking dream or heaven on earth, Ater Tumti. And it's also an honor to serve with Munay, to support her, because she really is a beautiful force of divine, wild feminine, and with such integrity. To a prayerful, loving space holding for that heaven on earth to come through. And it's also an honor to share that space with you, sister Kashi, knowing the journey that you are on as well, with your own dedication to plant medicine and to the priestess path, and to awakening not just the divine feminine, but to awakening that collaborative, co-creative balance of yin and yang, of masculine and feminine, on this planet right now. To be able to weave with you from our distance and together is such a beautiful honor.
Yeah, I really felt the because before, we had the group, and I said to you, what is Ater Tumti? That's right, Ater Tumti, right?
Ater Tumti, yeah. I named the WhatsApp group Ater Tumti and PV.
Yeah, exactly. And I was like, what does that actually mean? And you said heaven on earth. And when you said it, I was like, yeah, I get it. Like I get it, but I know I'm going to get it more. And in the ceremony, I definitely, that was a big theme experience piece, because so much of my work over the past 12 years has been this kind of, and actually before, but it's like actually way before, but it's this, devotion to really realizing that heaven on earth in so many ways, within us, around us, individually, as a society, as humanity. And the Huachuma, I felt, was really like this access point of the remembrance of that, and also this reassurance that it's already done. We can get quite caught up on like, how do we get there? How do we get from here to there? And it's such a vast gap sometimes between what we're witnessing on earth and like this vision that many of us share of like what is possible, to sort of return to Eden, the harmony and peace and love-led world. And somehow the Huachuma really gives you this access point to, you're experiencing it in so many ways. But also for me, it was almost like this big reassurance of it like filled up my faith tank. You know, in terms of like, there's so much that for me is still coming to fruition, that is still like so many manifestations that are still growing and blossoming. And it was like this filling up of the faith tank and reassurance of like, there is nothing that can actually stop this. Like, you can rest in a way, you can relax in the knowledge that this already is, you know. And it was almost like also seeing things from more of an eagle's perch, where it's like I got to witness some of my more like human stuff of late from this much more elevated perspective. And I feel like sometimes the ayahuasca really takes you down. It takes you like down and in, you know, whereas this, it's very elevating. It's very much like, you want to see it from up here, and like kind of laugh at yourself a little bit of like when you get caught in your human a little too much and you're like making a big deal out of things that actually are relatively momentary. And when you're looking at it from here, from this place of a really expanded consciousness, from this place of heaven on earth perspective in a way, then you get to kind of like cradle your human self with sort of compassion and with a little bit of laughter and sort of rearrange your perception, you know, recalibrate your perception to one that is more expanded and also more humble in many ways.
Yeah, you know, that brings up, I don't want to necessarily make a comparison, but I think it is really cool. It's a cool conversation to have about like, what does the ayahuasca do and what does the Huachuma do? Because you are practicing beautiful priestess work with the ayahuasca, while I'm doing the same work with the or similar work with the Huachuma. And they have different, the ayahuasca kind of takes you into your story, right? And it kind of takes you into the content of your mind a bit, and you get really clear images, like visuals. And it's a vine. Like if you're looking at the metaphor of the actual plant itself, it's a vine that's close to the earth, and it's considered feminine, although I like to get away from labeling too much the masculine and the feminine with the plants, because I do feel like they transcend that. And then there's the Huachuma, like you said, is that it's this more expansive. People associate it with the masculine. I want to be careful about that, but this more sort of expansive, elevated, bird's eye view of things. And I guess the question is, now that you've really experienced sort of that, and how does that map onto what you do with the ayahuasca, with specifically tantra ayahuasca, which we can talk more about either now or on another episode. I want to share that with our listeners as well. But can you speak to that work you do?
Okay. Yeah, ultimately I think it's very complementary, you know. And I agree with the gender danger, if you like, because I mean, for me, the ayahuasca is so feminine. She's undeniably feminine. But with the Huachuma, I thought it was very beautiful what Munay said at the beginning, which is that she also avoids giving the Huachuma agenda, because she perceives it as boundless. And it's this like neutrality that actually allows more boundlessness when you don't compartmentalize it in that way. And for me, also plant medicine, it's of the earth. So there's this level at which it's always feminine, you know, because it's like coming from mama. So in terms of how the two can weave together, I think it is a really interesting conversation. And I think that ultimately they are very complementary. And on a certain level, not that different as well. You know, there's differences, sure, but like I think for me, ultimately, my journeys, I think it's more about your soul. You know, it's more about your soul and your relationship to life and your relationship to earth that really shapes your journey. So, you know, there's so many common threads in my experience. Actually, for me, both medicines are very, very physical. it's not experiences where I'm sort of transcending, even though I talk about the eagle's perch and things like this, I'm really not transcending my body in any way. Like, they're very, very embodied experiences, and I move a lot. And that's why I loved also being out in the nature and having all this space, because it's like I could really just let loose with movement, and also not feel too watched because everyone was kind of doing their own thing. So yeah, I mean, both are really embodied, and both, it's almost like you could perceive it as that masculine and feminine serpent. It's like ultimately they're unified. Ultimately, you can't really invoke one without the other. Whenever you invoke the feminine, you're also invoking the masculine. It's like you focus on maturing one or cultivating one, and naturally the other one rises to meet it. So I feel like, yeah, they're very complementary. And yeah, ultimately they bring you to the same place. Ultimately they bring you deeper into your truth. They bring you deeper into the knowing of your soul. They bring you closer to your purpose. They bring you into deeper relationship with earth and with creation. And they show you another thing that Munay, I think it was a phrase she used, was caverns of the heart. That you're actually, both, they allow you to access these caverns of your heart, that
Undiscovered caverns of the heart,
undiscovered. Yeah, exactly. Or perhaps discovered, but there's more to them. There's another layer. It's like, for me, it was a bit like that. I accessed spaces, places, themes that I'm very, very familiar with, but it was like another layer to it, another discovery, like new treasures within those caverns, and also another layer of cleaning, another layer of healing. I feel like for most of the journey, it was not so emotional for me. Ayahuasca tends to be very, very emotional if I go there, if I go deep. But then right before sunset, I opened up the emotional gateway, which is beautiful. I always love it. And it's like that cleansing, that internal cleansing, but it's like accessing those caverns of the heart, where when you do, you're just renewed in your truth, because you're able to experience the deeper parts of who you are. And that is empowering ultimately, whether it's an experience of like ecstasy and being really in your bliss and in your power and in your dance, or whether it's an experience of like your heart is cracking open and you feel incredibly vulnerable. It's just like you're accessing more of the spectrum of what's there. And I think that that's the healing, because then you emerge into the world and it's just like you're more aware of what it means to be a human and of what you're bringing.
Yeah, absolutely. And so I just discovered this medicine for myself, or I was initiated into this medicine by Munay, with Munay, 5 years ago in 2018 at the Temple of Shabin in Peru, which is where this medicine comes from. And I remember my very first ceremony was so intense because it was a full dose, first ceremony ever with any plant medicine at an ancient pre-Incan temple. And I remember touching the walls of the temple and dropping to my knees and sobbing. And I'm not particularly emotional off the medicine or on the medicine. I kind of hold that close to my chest a lot, but I just burst open. Absolutely burst open. And I don't know if it was like a deep remembrance of who we are and what's possible, and a mourning that that's not the life that we've been living collectively, or what. But these medicines have so much power for deep inner transformation. And even if you don't know exactly what's happening in the moment, even if you don't know exactly what happened a week ago when you were on the medicine, even if you don't really consciously know what happened, something huge shifts are happening on the physical, emotional, and spiritual and intellectual planes. It's very gratifying.
I think, for me, I drank a lot of ayahuasca in my early 20s. And yeah, I was understanding those journeys 10 years later.
Yeah.
I was like, oh, that's what I was doing, but in the moment you don't necessarily know, but you're activating this higher consciousness, you're activating this connection to your soul consciousness in a way. And so things are happening on so many levels, and you don't necessarily need to or get to know exactly what that is until way later. And that's part of the integration. And like things reveal themselves also in time, because there's the other aspect of this 12-hour ceremony and working with the medicine. It's like you're going beyond regular time.
Yeah, there are moments where time stops. There are moments where it feels like time is flying. There are moments where where you feel like you're accessing other points in time, ancient and futuristic points in time at the same time. This thing called simultime can happen, where you feel connected to every incarnation that you've ever experienced with this particular soul identity. So yeah, there's a lot going on with time with this medicine. And also, we talked, you mentioned how all plant medicines are of the earth. And so they all in some way have an embodiment of the feminine, but there's something special about a vertical cactus, phallic vertical cactus that is reaching for the sun from the highest elevation points on the planet, from 14,000 feet. There are these vertical cacti reaching for the sun from the earth, or reaching to the earth from the sun.
Yeah.
And yeah,
this connection with the stars, because
yeah,
also cacti have these points, right? So it's
yeah.
like that also feels connected to like star, like pinpricks of stars somehow.
If you look at the Huachuma from the top, it's a six, often most of the time a six-pointed star from the top, which is also mind-blowing and has many metaphorical meanings to it.
So what would you say is like, because so you had that initiation with the medicine 2017?
18.
And then, you've been on this journey with it up until now. And I think, sometimes when people talk about plant medicine, for people that haven't had the experience or don't really know, it can sometimes be quite abstract. So how would you like sum up what this medicine has brought you over linear time, like in these years, because you really committed to this medicine, and also committed to working with Munay, and the role that she's played for you and the role that the medicine has played for you, and how, like, what transformation has that brought to you over time? Like, what have you noticed specifically that it's shifted in your everyday life?
Thank you so much for this question. I feel like I could unpack that question for hours and days and lifetimes.
Love it.
So this will just be a snippet of a response to that question. But one thing it teaches me is pure presence, absolute, pure, pristine, crystalline presence of consciousness in this body right here, right now, across all time and space. So that means, to me, that is the definition of ceremony. So I can take that into every moment of my day. I'm not saying I'm perfect at that by any stretch of the imagination, but it's a really fun practice to invite divinity and the presence of consciousness into my body in every single moment. When I'm on the medicine, it makes it a lot easier. When I'm with the Huachuma, it's like I feel the divine presence of God, goddess in my being. I feel bathed in Christ consciousness light. And then as you move on from that into your everyday life, you more and more, and this beautiful part of this medicine too, is that it's so much more easily integrated. Because it's a long journey, because it's 12 to 15 to 24 to 48 to the rest of your life sort of ceremony, it makes it really easy to integrate it into the days after. And it's like, oh wow, so that moment where I was pure presence embodied, I was pure consciousness embodied, looking out at the beautiful trees and the landscape around me, I can still manage to do that, like as I'm walking through my day, as I'm talking to my son. How is this conversation with Kashi a ceremony? How is my day a ceremony? How is washing the dishes a ceremony? How am I inviting the divine all the time. And so that just becomes a beautiful practice.
I love that.
Mm.
Yeah. Yeah, because life is ceremony. And
Yeah.
actually that was one of the things I said after last Friday, is I was just like, part of me, that's where I want to be all the time. I love plant medicine ceremonies. It's something I took a 10-year hiatus. So I, like, by no means just kind of like discovered plant medicine and just kept going. I really feel like I do understand the importance of integration, but there's this piece where I feel so at home in sacred space. And on lots of levels, that is how I live my life. It's like my home is a temple, my room, there are altars everywhere. It's like life is a ceremony. And that is, in a way, the practice for us as humans, is to like walk through life with this awareness of the divine, inviting the divine to lead us, to be led by the divine within us as well. And there's just something so beautiful and nurturing, nourishing at a soul level when we gather and we have the assistance, the support of these medicines to really access these deeper parts of us, and to weave from a deeper place maybe than just the everyday consciousness. And then it's this journey of bringing that deeper consciousness, that more awareness into every moment. And the presence, the pristine, the masculine, I mean, having said, like, let's avoid the gender thing, you definitely have this very beautiful divine masculine transmission through the Huachuma. And yeah, it's crystalline, like you said, it's very pure. And I work with some women who are navigating life and sexuality and sexual healing and coming into partnership and relationship, whether they're already in it or whether they want it. And I actually had a client the other day, and she's like, I don't actually know any divine masculine, like, men that I would really say are that, I don't know where to look. I don't have that template, I don't know where to get that blueprint from. And I feel like the Huachuma does carry that blueprint. It does instill that. It gives you a taste. It gives you a remembrance. It gives you an experience of that pristine presence that is such a big piece of the divine masculine energy, the divine masculine role.
Yeah. Wow. I do. I love that. And I've had sort of channelings, transmissions while on the medicine on a solo journey, which was that the goddess is the body that the god gets to dance in. And that is sort of that, I think that is kind of like that transmission of the divine masculine. And I am the temple, and I am the I am that the temple was built for. It's that I am consciousness that is sort of archetypal masculinity, and then the matter, the body, the earth, being that archetypal feminine. And it's the two of those being woven together beautifully and seamlessly that is what creates this experience of life on earth. And
Yeah,
this medicine just really helps us feel that and know that, and be the temple.
totally. It's very much like you're being penetrated by that light,
Yeah.
whole body, through all your cells. It's that, yeah, it's that essence of light that is consciousness meeting
So,
in
yeah.
your body, in an embodied experience that gives you actually the codes of union, which is a lot of
Mm.
what my work is about. And it's like how to remember and align with that internal blueprint that is the union of your two serpents, of your masculine and feminine, of your body and soul.
You know, I just want to, I don't want to, like, we could talk about this for hours, and I want to make sure that we manage time. But one thing I really want to make sure to weave into this conversation is the experience of bringing this medicine, this crystalline, medicine, to the wild jungles of Costa Rica. Because here on Maui and in Peru, it's a very different vibe, like the location matters. The set and setting of a medicine matters so much, and like how it gets embodied. And I was so excited, slightly nervous in a good way, for to bring this medicine to the wild, wild jungle of the Caribbean coast of Costa Rica. And my God, it was a marriage made in heaven.
Totally.
So
Yeah.
good. Yeah. I mean, and to bring it to my soul family, it's like I've been sitting on this like secret, this Huachuma medicine for 5 years, wanting so badly to share it with my soul family. And I'm just so grateful that you stepped up and dove in with me. Thank you.
Oh, babe, I'm so grateful as well. And I feel like, the Huachuma gets less press than the ayahuasca.
Totally. I'm okay
People
with that.
aware of it. Yeah. But yeah, it's just because you referenced it as a secret, and it's like this gem. And I feel like Munay is also like a gem this
She
way.
is such a gem.
So happy to meet her, and I had this beautiful remembrance during the ceremony of just like, I remember you from so long ago, and like we as a tribe have been doing this forever, and the Wachuma brings that like ancient future together, like you said, and timelessness as well. And yeah, to find these people on the planet where you're like, you are a soul ally, you are a soul ally, and together we really can create heaven on earth. These individuals, these humans that are really truly devoted to that mission. And so yeah, big inspiration in that sense to find more of these gems, and to bring these secret allies like the plants into the hands of people that are really able to work with them with reverence and with respect and with that consciousness. And oh yeah, I mean, I just wanted to say as well, it's funny because I've only done Huachuma 3 times now, and every time it's been in the jungle. I've never done it anywhere but the jungle. So like, yeah, it's interesting. That's just my experience. But to be able to be in the wild, I mean, I got to roll around. I got to be very like primal and uncensored in my experience last week. And in a way, I can't imagine doing it anywhere else, just to have that like so much nature and be able to. I mean, I talked about gateways. She encouraged everyone at the beginning. She said, don't wait for the medicine, don't wait for something to happen, like go and find a gateway, whether that's like looking at a creature or a plant or whatever. And I mean, there was just like such an abundance of gateways everywhere you look here. It's just like a wilderness, and I saw the most incredible sight of a monkey that I've ever seen in my whole life. It was like HD monkey, you don't hallucinate, but
Mm-mm.
everything is kind of HD. So
Hmm.
being able to just witness nature in HD for 12 hours straight, and like really receive her medicine through the medicine and with the medicine. It was
Mm.
amazing. And it was like you went on this pilgrimage, and then you came back with this gem and secret, and then you presented it to the tribe, and it was just like, yeah, it feels like the beginning, honestly. It feels like the beginning. And I feel like we're going to receive, as a tribe, we're going to receive these spaces that are really powerful. They're like grid points, they're portals, they're temples for us to come together and heal and manifest heaven on earth. Step into our super selves and do the thing.
So, yeah, speaking of which, I just had this impulse, intuition to share this vision that Kashi and I and Munay and many of us have, which is that we have temple spaces here on Maui in the Caribbean of Costa Rica. Um, like like having these beautiful temple spaces where we can gather freely. And I mean, and we have them, we're doing it, we're already doing it, but to really be able to like ground in and have these space where we can constantly be inviting people in, and where we can actually be in almost perpetual ceremony in a space and constantly be inviting more people into that space. So yeah, I don't know if you want to speak to that too, but we are seriously calling in folks who want to support our mission of bringing more temple spaces onto the planet where we can practice this freely.
Totally. And where there is safety and where
Yeah.
there is like responsibility and integrity. And I think that's, there's all sorts of spaces all over the planet. And yeah, they're held it's like the intention is so important. The person, the people that are behind the initiative, what is their motivation? And I think that's one of the things. It's like having these really pristine spaces that are really held by a circle, and that can be these kind of like transformation stations in many ways, because there's a lot of tribe, there's a lot of also people younger than us who are emerging out of matrix programming, who are emerging out of the social situations that they were born into, the programming that their parents gave them. And it's like there is this process, which I feel for me, plant medicine has been really important within, which is where you are shedding all of this conditioning. You're shedding all of these masks and layers that you took on unconsciously to navigate your way through life at an early age, all the way through to adulthood or whatever age. You know, some people, the process begins at 50 of this, like realizing that actually there's more to it than what they have been presented with or been aware of up until now. So it's like having these transformation stations where people can come and they can really be supported, whether it's with plant medicines or new healing technologies, you know, ceremony, ritual, all these things, to really shed these layers that are not really who they are and access, bring forward their divine self, their true purpose, their hearts, you know, and like, so to transform, to heal, to grow. And so that I feel like is what's really just being called for right now more and more on this planet. You know, spaces which are safe, which are free, and which are really being held with that integrity and that have the technologies. And I feel like Huachuma is one of these ancient futuristic technologies. You know, ayahuasca is another one. There's another, I just have to mention this because I finalized this yesterday. I'm bringing a healing technology to Costa Rica as well, which is it's a device, a machine that heals through light and sound. And for me, one of the things I'm so excited about is combining these new healing technologies. This one is really, it's pristine. It also has that incredible integrity with plant medicine, you know, and being able to really give people these optimal conditions to, in a way, expedite the process of healing and the process of awakening. You know, not that it needs to be quicker than whatever divine timing organic process needs to happen, but at the same time, when you have that focus, when you have that held space, when you have mentorship, when you have that support, then you can move through a lot of these challenges, a lot of the shedding, a lot of the growing pains with more ease, with more grace, with more speed. So I feel like that's just happening, and we are we are doing it already, and there's more, there's so much more coming, and I'm so excited for it.
It's such an honor to be in service to this unfolding.
Yeah, absolutely. And to be, you know, graced with, I mean, in Maui it's the same. It's like with this natural world around us.
Mm.
You know, I mean, like you said, the setting is so important. I once did an ayahuasca ceremony like in central London above a high street in the middle of the day, you know, and that was a very different kind of experience from some of the ceremonies, you know, from, let's say, the Huachuma, when you're in nature. So it's like being able to be in these wild places, even live in these places without medicine, but where nature is the medicine, you know, and it's like everything around you is in its natural element. So that is supportive to you actually coming back to your own natural element, as opposed to trying to be something you're not, or trying to imitate the next person, or trying to, you know, create an identity or a life path that is just what you think you should do. You know, it's like coming back to, like, if you're a tree, be a tree. If you're a rock, be a rock, because everything around you is just being itself. So that in itself is so supportive to coming back to our true nature.
Beautiful. I feel like that is a gorgeous place for us to land in this conversation. And I want to just shout you out again, Kashi. You are such a beautiful sister to me and to this work. And I want to share with people how they can find you and how they can take advantage of your beautiful offerings, including Tantra Huasca and this incredible machine that's on its way to you. How can people find you?
Oh, thank you. First of all, I just want to say that I love talking with you always, and we continue this for hours. So thank you for having me, and yeah, for co-creating with me always. It's such a gift. And where can you find me? So my Instagram is kundalini.rose. My website is kundalinirose.co. And on my website, I have online courses, different ways you can work with me. And then Tantra Huasca, which is a co-creation with a beautiful sister, Millie Moonstone, who I'm very excited for you to meet as well.
I can't
Um,
wait.
yeah, she and I facilitate a week-long retreat for women that combines these two pathways of Tantra and ayahuasca. So it's a deep dive immersion here in Costa Rica on the Caribbean coast. And we've run one so far, and it was absolutely, actually, one of the participants said, yoni blowing, mind blowing, heart blowing. It was just we were all blown away in the best possible way. So we have another one coming up in April and another one in October, and we're going to be doing more and more of these. And the website for that is tantrahuasca.com, tantrahuasca.com, like Huachuma. And yeah, I think that's it. Oh, and yeah, I mean, the healing machine, for those that are curious to check it out, it's called The Art of Implosion, AOI. So you can have a look at that at artofimplosion.com. It really is an incredible new technology that I believe is going to fully change the face of healing as we know it. But it's a whole conversation. So yeah, hit me up if you want to know more.
Yeah, stay tuned. We'll have more conversations. We could go on in perpetuity. Love you.
Yes, and thank you for being a beautiful PR agent for the divine and for
Ah.
all for this podcast as a platform for really, yeah, bringing us together and giving people, a platform to share their medicine and their message. So big thanks to you.
Thank you so much. Blessings to you, Kashi, and to all of you listeners. Thank you so much. And may you have a ceremonious day.
Aho.